Hey fantasy fans, it's Dan here with Treebeard Book Reviews, and it's that time of year where all the booktubers are talking about their favorite books of the year, their least favorite books of the year, and it's time for me to do the same. As you saw, I'm talking about my worst books or most disappointing books of 2022. Just gotta remember, guys, this is my list, and these are just my opinions. Some of you may love these books. These books really didn't click with me. Some of them I just hate. Some of them I don't ever plan to read again. Some of them I've already donated. So this is just a fun list, don't take it too seriously. I'm just a guy on the internet who just has opinions on books, right? Whether they're right or they're wrong, this is just how I felt. But, I'd love to hear what your least favorite books of the year were. Tell me your top 5 or just your number 1, which is the worst book you read. I'm going to be popping in here, too, because I want to talk about some of the books I DNF'd in 2022. They're maybe not necessarily the worst books, or they're just books I'm like, I don't really like this right now, and this is maybe something I'll set aside. So I'll probably mention the DNFs a little bit later. But I got 8 books on here that just really disappointing, didn't connect with me, and let's get into that list. Alright, before we get into the list, I just want to say a big thank you to my patrons. I do have a Patreon channel. If you are interested in supporting the channel, that is always an option. I want to give a big shout out to my old man Willows. Paul and Powell, you know who you are. Thank you for support this year. It's been so much fun having you being a part of the channel. Guys who are, for those of you who are interested in my Patreon, the old man Willow, it is the highest tier where you get a shirt, you get a bookmark, and then you get to pick a book for me one month of the year, and I have to read that book and do a review. And also, you get access to all the other perks of, a monthly chat with me. So that's enough for the Patreon. And also, just another mention, if you want to join the Discord, we're going to have a lot of buddy reads going on in 2023. I did put out a video of the series I plan to read in 2023. So if you want to be a part of any of those buddy reads, please jump in there. Some people have already started the Eye of the World, Wheel of Time, and they're loving it. It's getting me so hyped to start it now, so I cannot wait. So if you want to do that, please join. Alright, but let's get on to, I did a list of 8 books here. Let's get on to number 8. Alright, book number 8, the 8th book that was the most disappointing for me this year. And it's going to be a surprise, I think, for a lot of people. It's a Terry Pratchett book, and it's Carpe Juggling. Oh my goodness. I had a really good read in October and a really bad read, and actually 2 bad reads in October. I really didn't care for Carpe Juggling. It was a different Discworld book. You don't have Granny Weatherwax. She isn't around as much. It takes a long time, I felt, for the story to get going. I don't really care for the character of Agnes Nitt. And just the vampires, they weren't super interesting. I really just didn't care about anything that happened in this book. There were some plot points of some characters I liked, like the priest from the Church of Ulm, but overall, I just felt super disappointed, and it was probably my least favorite Discworld book to date. And I know with any kind of series, you have to have a least favorite. There's 41 books, not all of them are going to land for me. And, I was just kind of interested to see that out of the 71 books I read this year, that Carpe Juggling was, or a Pratchett book was on this list. So, yeah, number 8 is Carpe Juggling. Okay, so number 7 is Skyward. By Brandon Sanderson. This is the first book in the Sci-Fiverse series. I don't see myself continuing this. My wife really likes the series. I really don't. I just don't connect with a 16-year-old girl. I think Brandon wrote this well, but again, there's so much of his comedy in this book that I just don't like it. I don't like his comedy. I don't like the main character, Spensa. I didn't connect with her. I was like, just crash and die. Please, crash and die, because I just cannot stand you as a character. And I think this is just me, not really enjoying the YA genre anymore. I'm really kind of past young adult fantasy. I think this would have been better for me if it didn't have that forced humor of Brandon Sanderson that I do not like. I think if this was just written by any other author and it wasn't being to be overly funny, I probably would have enjoyed it a little bit more. One of my favorite movies of all time is Top Gun. This is kind of like Top Gun, really, like flight school and dogfights and it's alien race that you don't know what they are. yeah, and there was like this mystery, and it's, I don't know, it never really kind of climaxed for me. I never really felt engaged with any of the characters, and I never really cared. Like when some of the characters, die, you're just like, oh well, who cares? Like I didn't care. So Skyward number 7, Brandon Sanderson hitting on the bottom of my list. I've really started to cool a lot on Brandon Sanderson. Again, I think it's just that comedy aspect, and a lot of his books he's trying to be more funny, and I just don't like his comedy. His comedy is just such a turnoff, and he does it in some of my favorite series, like Mistborn Era 2 with like Wayne, and then he also has like Shallan and Stormlight. Like I just hate these characters. I just hate them so much because like, yeah, it just doesn't work for me, Brandon's comedy. So number 7 is Skyward. All right, so number 6. This is actually a patron pick. It was picked by Paul for me, and this one I think it's just more of the art style. I was not a big fan of. I think it was kind of lost on me a little bit, really a little bit wasted. Where I think if you really appreciate the art and you're into this type of artsy, like poetic writing, you will enjoy this book. I will say it's a really quick read. Like I couldn't put it down because it kind of pulls you through it and you just kind of need to know. But I never really enjoyed what I was reading. It just brings you along through this journey, and by the end you're just like, oh, okay. It was just lost on me. And that book is Lonnie by Max Porter. It's not a bad book. It's just I just didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy, like, there's all these different pieces where you're meeting this child Lonnie, and you're dealing with his interactions with his parents, and then this other artist, and there's also this kind of entity that's around. But I never felt it really made a cohesive story, and it just, again, it pulled you through, but it's so short. You can read it in like a sitting. I think I read it in like an hour and a half. I just didn't enjoy my time with it. I just kind of not hate read it, but I was more just, I was going through the motions of reading it, and I just didn't enjoy my time with it. Yeah, I'm not, like, I like art and I like poetry, but I think I'm more on the ancient epic poetry style, like with the Iliad and the Aeneid and the Odyssey, where those are so deep and there's so much there. And that can be said for Lonnie, that it can be deep, and it does touch on like bigger worldly meanings and human life, and it is kind of an introspection on life. But I just didn't like it. I don't know. There's something about it I just didn't like. So Lonnie was book number 6. Book number 5. This is going to be a surprise, I think, for some people. I kind of mentioned it that I've read it, but I did it on audio, and I just didn't particularly enjoy it. And I know with this series, like the last book, it's a quartet of books. The last book really kind of hurts, I think, the whole series, and some people either love it or hate it. And I really didn't connect with the first book, and that book is Senlin Ascends, so the Books of Babel by Josiah Bancroft. I just didn't care for Thomas Senlin. I didn't really enjoy the character. I wasn't really engaged with his plight. He just felt pompous, and I know you're supposed to kind of connect with him because he becomes, you go on this journey with him. He comes a bit more down to earth, and he kind of throws off the headmaster kind of a persona and picks up another one. But I never cared. Like, I never cared about his relationship with his wife, because it just seemed very cold. Like, you like Maria, like his wife, and you have these flashbacks with Thomas, recalling their relationship and their marriage, which is to kind of show you he is really in love with her and is a warm being. But I just never connected with him. And it's funny because, like, I work in education, and I thought I would, like, oh, this is a teacher, I would like connect with this character and have a good relationship in my mind with like the steampunk kind of world. And I never really did. I there were some twists in the book, and it's just like, they weren't like super like, oh my god, I didn't see that coming, oh my god, this is mind blowing. So I just didn't enjoy it. I really didn't enjoy the character, didn't enjoy the story too much, and there was just certain points where I was bored and I was just ready, because it's like almost like a level progression too, where he's moving through these levels of Babel, and they're all different, and like he's going through all these different experiences. There was one that was like probably, I think it was like level 2, right before the bathhouse where he's in the playhouse. I did enjoy that. Like, there's parts that are enjoyable that I liked, but I think the overall picture, the overall story, I was just like, I didn't really care too much. I wasn't really invested enough to like just learn more what happens to him and his wife, and read on in the series. And with people saying, oh, like book 4 is kind of bad, or it doesn't really end in a satisfying way, I'm not really kind of convinced to continue, and I don't see myself continuing. So I'm going to completely DNF this series. It's done for me. So. Like I said, I did this one on audio. The audio narration was good. I believe it was done by Damian Lynch, was the audio narrator. I'll correct myself if I'm wrong on the screen here, but I did I enjoyed his narration. I just didn't particularly enjoy the story. Like, it ended up being like a 3 stars or something like that for me. Book 4, now we're, I guess we're in the top 5, I guess worst 5 books of the year. And this book I don't even own anymore. I donated it a while back. And that is Gerzel by Anonymous. I just really didn't like this story. I think the reason I didn't like it was just the way it was written. Like, it was a 200-plus page book with, like, so many bloody POVs that you only really got, like, I can't even remember the characters' names. It was just so forgettable. But, I think it was 8 or 9 POVs, and you only get, like, maybe 30 pages with your main characters, your 2 main POVs, and that's not enough. Not enough to be attached to them, not enough to care about them. Like, there's the dragon in it, Gerzel, which is kind of okay, but it never got past, like, being okay. Like, yes, there's history there. There's a few things that were wrong in the history, and I don't expect people to get history right from 1500s, or expect people to care, or expect people to get history right from 1500 years ago, or expect people who are reading it to really care about those anachronisms, or, because I'm an ancient history, like, buff. Like, I did my bachelor's degree in classical civilization and ancient history, so that stuff means, like, a lot to me, and I am interested in reading those type of things. But when there's, like, anachronisms, or just stuff I didn't really care about, like, it's just, like I said, what really hurt this story was there's too many POVs. If it was maybe 3 POVs and it was a 200-page book, yeah, like, you're going to get a decent amount of time with your main characters. But there just wasn't enough time for them. He was trying to do too much. Like, there's just so much going on, like, with Tristan and Isolde, and, like, Sabra, and it's just, like, and Tom, like, and it's just, there's so many things he's trying to pull together, and it was just like, oh, look at me, what I can do as a writer. And none of it really worked. None of it really landed. And I'm not going to continue with the series. Not interested in reading anymore. Like, I know Baden Hill's out. Not going to read it. So yeah, Gerzel, number 4. I donated the book. I just didn't like it. I don't read a lot of self-published authors. I don't read a lot of indie authors. This is really, like, not... If you're into that type of stuff, my channel is probably not for you. Like, I'm not really interested in reading indie or self-pub authors. I will read the odd one now and again, but it's not really the main focus of my channel. There are a lot of amazing other booktubers out there who focus on indie and self-published authors. I just don't. Like, I might pick up the one that's, really kind of rising and everyone's saying it's good, but I'm really not going to go out and look for them. I have so many other mainstream authors that I need to read in, like, the science fiction and, like, fantasy genres, that I have enough to read, like, on these shelves for the next, like, my lifetime, right? So... I'm not saying that there aren't some amazing, authors out there in the indie and self-published world. It's just I'm not really into that scene. All right, my 3 least favorite books of the year. This 3rd book, I've tried it twice. I tried starting it twice, ended up DNFing it, and the 3rd time I'm going to give it a real go and finish it, and I still hated it. And that was American Gods by Neil Gaiman. I don't actually own a copy. I donated it. I think I just put it in my pocket one day when I was walking the dog, and there's a bunch of, like, little, like, libraries, like, around where I live, so I just dumped it in one of those. I just don't like this story. I should like it because it's all around mythos and gods and old gods versus new gods. And but the character Shadow, he's so boring. Like, Shadow is, like, exceptionally boring. Like this character sucks so much. And I just never connected with Shadow. And, like, you have to like the main character. You have to like the main character for any kind of story, I think, or at least usually with main characters, they're not your favorite character, but you have to like them enough to keep going. It's like Harry Potter, right? Harry Potter's not your favorite character, but you have to like Harry Potter a little bit to kind of root for him a little bit to go on. But with Shadow, just never really rooted for him, never really cared about him. He's just so boring. He's literally just uninteresting. There's nothing interesting about Shadow's life that is, I find, like, engaging. And like I'm literally confused how people enjoy this book. Like, there's nothing here. It's so mind baffling that there's nothing in this book that captivated me at all. I hated the ending. I hated the beginning. I hated the end, like the middle. Like, there was never a point where I'm like, oh, this is so interesting, I want to keep reading. I'm like, no, I just kind of hate this book. I'm just going to keep reading it because I hate it so much. And yeah, like the only character I liked, that what I'd like to learn more about, was maybe Mr. Nancy or like Anansi. And I know there's a book, The Anansi Boys, so I might read that. Like, Neil Gaiman is so hit and miss for me. Like, he has some books that I just absolutely love, capture my imagination, couldn't put down. And then other books, like, you know, American Gods and Stardust, I'm like, where did this come from? This is such trash. And it is trash. It's honestly, yeah, never going to read it again. Tried it twice, failed it, and picked it up finally. And just, yeah, it's such a bad book. It's legitimately bad. It's number 2. I think this one is really affected by how much I enjoyed Book 2. Book 2 is one of my favorite books of 2022. I loved it. I just dug this the theme and like this frame narrative that was going on in Book 2. Pulled me right through the story, and I was totally engaged with the character. Then Book 3 comes out, and you're like, whoa, this book is boring. So that book is Assassin's Quest by Robin Hobb. This book really is just a big nothing burger. I feel like nothing happens in this book. Like, it's just like Fitz wandering through the forest, Fitz getting hurt, Fitz healing, and like Fitz gathering, and like it's boring. There's just I know everyone says, oh, this book is so much better on the reread once you finish the whole series. But that doesn't help the book when you read it for the first time. Like, the book is, like, objectively, nothing really happens. And, like, it's such a slow-paced book, and then it just, like, rushes you right through the ending. And, like, it was just, like, such a letdown. Like, I felt so let down after reading the book, and I was so bored the whole time. And I really kind of have wiped this book from my memory because I can't think of anything that was interesting or, you know, that really, you know, made me enjoy the book. Like, maybe Night Eyes. Night Eyes is always enjoyable, but you can't just have it, like, the book be good because of a companion character. Well, actually, I will say there was some parts with the Fool and Fitz that are good, but I'm not really a big fan of Fitz. I don't like Fitz as a character, and it kind of goes back to that, like, you need to like the main character, and I don't like Fitz. He's just annoying, and I find he makes really poor decisions, and not even like poor decisions, like decisions that actively hurt him. And I just don't find him engaging. Yes, he's an 18-year-old. I think he's 18 or 19-year-old kid, and he's been through a lot. But I just never really have enjoyed Fitz since book 2. Like, this whole book, I just didn't feel like it ever justified this whole journey. Like, this book could have been like a 400-page book, not an 800-page monstrosity. And I also felt that, like, you know, with the ending, it was such a whimper of an ending, and it felt rushed. Like, it shouldn't feel rushed in an 800-page book, because you're, you know, by like the 700-page mark, you're like, hey, like, you need to start wrapping this up, and like, I don't feel like we've done anything. And then, you know, you just like get rushed right through the ending, and then it's a very unsatisfying ending. It's a very unsatisfying ending to, like, your big villain that you've been kind of facing this, you know, in this trilogy. And yeah, it just could have been handled so much better. And yeah, so that's why Assassin's Quest is my my second least favorite book of 2022. All right, so just gonna do some quick mentions of books I DNF'd in 2022. Some of these I DNF'd just because I didn't like them, or some because I just didn't like them at the time, and I'm going to pick them up maybe again later. So some of the books were The Drawing of Three, you know, Dark Tower by Stephen King, book 2. I can see myself reading this again or trying it again. I just I just maybe wasn't in the right headspace for it. I just didn't enjoy what I was reading at the time, so I just put it down. Next was Shadow of the Torturer by Gene Wolfe, Book of the New Sun. This is a very complex book. It's a very dense book for how short it is. And it has a lot of like kind of grotesque things going on, and like the character Severian is also a bit crazy, but he's also not crazy. And he also has a very problematic relationship with women. I just didn't really enjoy what I was reading. I think if I was in a different headspace, or if I've read more of kind of Gene Wolfe, or like more kind of like, you know, darker sci-fi, I probably would enjoy it a bit more. So I'm gonna give myself a break on this one and say I might pick this up again and try it at another date. And the last one was Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. I just didn't like it. I didn't like the language on it. It's just like it's just like I don't mind profanity. Like people swear, you know, I swear, but it was just like overdone. Like it's like, oh, he figured out he could swear for the first time, and he just dropped a swear word in it. And that's not like the big part of it. It's just I didn't really care for this story. I wasn't really engaged with it. I'm not a big vampire like person. I don't like vampires that much. I don't really kind of like any kind of horror things like zombies, vampires. Like it just does nothing for me. I'm not really super interested in it. And just this whole story, the way it was going, I was like, I know people say to like wait till the halfway through the book and it gets better in the second half. I'm like, that's not a really big selling feature for me. And I gave it like 150 pages. I was like, I don't like this. I just don't enjoy any of this. So I put it down, and I'm gonna be selling my copy. So I'll get rid of that. But let's get on to number one, my least favorite book of 2022. All right, so my least favorite book of 2022. This is probably no surprise for anyone who's been watching me this year, or you chat with me on Discord, and that is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I still really don't like this book. I've got a lot of comments on that video, and you know, the thing with reviews is you typically, when you watch a book review, you've either read the book or you plan to read it, or you just want to see people to affirm your kind of opinion of it, right? And I just really didn't like it, and I know a lot of people love this book and I love this series, but I just never really connected with it. You know, it's like kind of like Hunger Games, like meets Dances with Wolves a little bit, where you have this main character who is like part of a lower caste. He gets engineered to be part of the higher class, and he's dealing with his own personal trauma, and then is kind of infiltrating to join that higher class, but then also to beat them. So I just really never liked Darrow. I legit still think Darrow is a Mary Sue or a Gary Stu. I don't think he earned any of his heightened abilities. It's just they engineer him, and yeah, he's smart, but the guy has no real like kind of education. Like what, he was a minor, and now he's just like this super genius and this tactical genius. Like shut up. Like I don't know. I really don't like this book. It's just everyone says, oh, read on and read Golden Sun and Morning Star, and I do plan to eventually, because this book really skewed my opinion. I know it's Pierce Brown's first book, and the guy just hit it big with this, and because it falls really into that YA genre, and I'm just not a fan of YA right now. Like I just don't really connect with a 16-year-old character. I'm not a 16-year-old person anymore, right? And the struggles of a 16-year-old aren't the struggles of what I have. Like my back hurts, and shit like that. Where it's just I get why people love this book, and I understand why I don't like it. Golden Sun is such a short book. I'll probably just pick it up and read it if I'm in a mood for punishing myself. No, I'm kidding. It's just I really just didn't enjoy my time with this one, and it just really comes down to, again, I didn't like the main character. I thought the main character was Gary Stu, and I'm hoping with Pierce Brown as a writer, he matured a bit more in the later books and wrote a more compelling story. And this could be a lot like where the Eye of the World, in a sense, where Eye of the World, it's a very formulaic, very familiar kind of book, but then it's really in like book 2 and 3, and it becomes like Wheel of Time, where maybe this is the same for this book. Like it gets better in Golden Sun and Morning Star, and it really becomes that series. Comment down below. Let me know what your least favorite book of 2022 was. I'd really love to hear it. And again, these are just my opinions. Like, who cares if I didn't like the book? Like, it's just, they're books, right? That shouldn't change your enjoyment of that book. And I think it's good to hear, contrary opinions to what you believe, because I actually watch a lot of like booktubers and people have different opinions of me, because it's like, oh, I like being challenged that way, and I like to see where people are coming from, and understand why they liked it and why maybe it didn't connect with me, or why I liked it so much and it didn't connect with them. So I think it's good to have that self-reflection and introspection on your books, and just walk a mile in other people's shoes. But so that's my least favorite books of 2022. If you enjoyed this video, please think about subscribing. It all does help the channel. But anyways, guys, comment down below, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.